is Elitam Elamine, Breatharian, and today we're going to talk about spiritual sex talk. Stay tuned.
So what point in your spiritual breatharian journey did you decide to become celibate?
Good question.
And why?
Well, first of all, celibacy, the idea, it was before I learned about food freedom. But it just came through different avenues of being in the church, how they talk about, how should we say it, not to fornicate and stuff like that. So that idea and the religious thought is all automatically there. You just really don't know why to the fullest. You just know, watch your sexual energies. So a lot of people who know my food freedom journey, how it was a health thing, I was overweight, and I began to lose weight and really get my energy back in tune and stuff like this. The next phase that hit me was when I did run into food freedom and started to read it. It didn't put no restrictions on it, but through energy work, I once met a man who started talking more deeper about sexual energy cultivation. Now, I knew a lot of the scriptures and knew a lot about this. A lot of things he threw at me I wasn't ready for. You know, he was trying to relate it in scriptures in the Bible, and I just couldn't see that. Oh, the fall became because of the misuse of sexual energy. I said, no way, that's somewhere else. You don't know what's happening. But then, as I started to learn more about meditation and cultivation of spiritual practices, sexual energy cultivation kept popping up more and more about how you could use that energy from the hip area and use it for your overall health. So as I began to even make health changes on myself, dealing with the food aspects, the fasting aspects and stuff like this, meditation was the new world I tapped into. Learning about the energy channels of the body. And it just made sense to me. So the first meditation I moved into was the microcosmic orbit. And at the time as I'm working on myself, sex is not even on my mind, because in this time period of my life, going through that situation of healing myself from when I was overweight, going through these different diet changes, the last thing was on my mind was what? Any type of relationship. I was into myself. And I knew how much it took. I was just dealing with a separation at the time, dealing with a marriage. So the last thing I wanted to be in was a relationship. So the whole impact was on myself. So that gave me a chance to use my sexual energy as a jumping board to see what is they talking about. Is there truth to this? And it was different than the message that was given in spirituality that the church would have dealt with restraint. That's not what we're talking about. This was dealing with, all right, this makes sense to me because energy loves to move. So now I'm going to move this energy in the hip area, move it to different parts of my body so I can see what these writings are talking about. So it was like an exploration, a sexual exploration with myself, taking it somewhere else instead of fulfilling your sexual needs physically. And at that time, now listen to this, I know everybody feel that they fulfilled sexually at different times of their life. So I'm sitting there, late 20s, early 30s, and being in the Navy once before, and I grew up in the life too. Now we got to get into this. Everybody come from different paths. So I felt by that time, I'd have done everything sexual up under the sun, because I lived a life of having 3 or 4 girlfriends at one time and stuff like this. That's just where I come from. And so I figured, well, when it comes down to sex, I already mastered that. Not having a clue. I was still a baby wet behind the ears in that journey. But anyway, so I pick up these new tools and want to explore it. So sure enough, dealing with the different meditations, I began to see the energy rise very high. There was no shadow of a doubt. Okay, I'm tapping into an energy source in myself. So when I ran into food freedom and started to learn about it, and they were talking about this energy, and it did have a section dealing with sexual energy, but it didn't put it on you that this is the all or nothing. You understand? So as I start working with this was fascinating. I kind of put it together to where it's all about energy, and the brain needs more energy. and I see all these improvements taking place. And I see these improvements take place with my energy flow even before I went into letting food go altogether. So I understood too, dealing with the microcosmic orbit, the sexual energy cultivation, how powerful that was. And then reading the different writings of how we're electromagnetic beings and you magnetize stuff for you. When I started saving my seed to start, being a male, I wanted to save my seed. I do have sperm. Women, I didn't know nothing about that at the time, but I didn't care. I'm working on myself. So my seed and how my life was going, I started to manifest stuff to me very, very quickly. And I had this big project that probably would have been over my head. I was building this community center, going into this city, no money really to get it started. But by me learning this new method of energy work, I manifested that. I made things happen. And it wasn't long before I was drawing people, bringing them together. And I knew this was sexual energy. Now,